Technology is fire, and if you control it, it's great. If it controls you, trouble.
United Nations envisions transhumanist future where man is obsolete.
This sounded more like a script for a Hollywood sci-fi movie. They were talking about superhumans, super intelligence, super animals.
When the singularity arrives, we cannot predict what these super intelligent machines will do. They will have their own goals and stop at nothing to fulfill them.
They're saying now that it might only be a few decades until basically men are gone.
Transhumanism is the ultra-high-tech dream of computer scientists, philosophers, neuroscientists, and many others. It seeks to use radical advances in technology to augment the human body, mind, and ultimately the entire human experience as we know it. It is a philosophy which supports the idea that mankind should proactively enhance itself and steer the course of its own evolution.
Transhumanism, simply a cultural movement, actually started out as, you might even think of it as a subcultural movement. About 20 years ago. It has grown very quickly. It now is made up of everything from young hippies and old hippies to academia. There are probably members within government, there are members within our universities. Some of our leading law schools are advocating now towards the transhumanist philosophy, and the philosophy is really very simple, that we no longer need to wait on the daunting pace of natural evolution, but we have science now at our disposal that ever since the mapping of the human genome and the genetic sciences came alive, this vision began basically coalescing into a new religion, a new philosophy that says we can take evolution into our own hands now through rewriting our DNA, genetically altering ourselves, other kinds of science, nanotechnology, neuropharmacology, neurosciences, brain-machine interfacing. All of these sciences now can be viewed as the tool that can lead us to the next step in our evolution, humans 2.0, something better, quicker, faster, cognitively superior, physically superior to what humans are today. And essentially that is what transhumanism is. It's a big idea that we can alter ourselves cognitively and in our physiology and create a superior specimen.
The reason why many people are so confident about this prediction of the so-called singularity is because of Moore's law. That computer power doubles every 18 months, and it's a curve that has held sway for 50 years. If you go back 100 years, back to the time of mechanical hand crank computers, put that into Moore's law, and you still get a nice fit. So believe it or not, Moore's law has been in operation for about 100 years, going back to hand crank calculators, with computer power doubling every 18 months.
Well, technology is advancing at an exponential rate. For example, just a few decades ago, the firepower in this iPhone once took up entire rooms. But with technology rapidly getting faster and smaller, it's believed that the hardware in this phone will be able to fit into our blood cells.
The vast supercomputers of the future, of only 20 years from now, will actually be in our bloodstream, will be in our brains at every intraneural connection.
Transhumanist enthusiasts believe it will transform life as we know it.
Ending disease, ending involuntary death, ending mental illness, and providing material abundance. That's not very imaginative. That's just the beginning.
And there's proof it's already happening.
We are putting computers in our brains. If you're a Parkinson's patient, even a cochlear implant is a form of a computer inside our body. So we're merging in all these different ways.
From artificial eyes to prosthetic limbs to electronic skin tattoos that monitor patients, some are quick to point out how the technology will be used to help mankind.
We'll start to create new medicines that will reprogram our biology away from diseases and away from aging processes.
That means not only finding the fountain of youth, but achieving immortality. It gives people like Matthew Deutsch that fear death some hope.
One day we'll be able to actually have a choice where we could just live forever and not have children.
If he dies, he says he plans to have his body preserved until science can revive him and allow him to live forever. But others warn of the risk the technology could fall into the hands of madmen Joel Garrow calls it the hell scenario.
In that scenario, what happens is that you create viruses and diseases that can wipe out the human race.
Another scary scene, the technology used to track and control people.
The minute that happens, then we're never going to have much control over our future again.
But despite these scary possibilities, transhumanist believers say the merging of man and machine is going to happen soon, whether we want it to or not.
Transhumanists wish to become what they call post-human. A post-human is someone that has been modified with performance-enhancing body and brain augmentations to the point that they can no longer be called human. They have mutated themselves into an altogether new being.
Post-humans will eventually become beings of such radically different cognitive abilities, even physical appearance, post-genderism, where we are the merging of both the best of male and female as part of the transhuman vision, that it'll be so radically different than what we understand today as to no longer even be considered to be human. The U.S. Department of Health gave a grant to Case Law School in Cleveland, Ohio of $773,000. There was one purpose behind this. You can go and Google the original news stories and read what the purpose behind the grant was. It was to establish the guidelines and government policy that needs to be enacted for human enhancement, and how the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, for instance, might be extended to protect a human non-human. And so Max Melhelm, who was the professor of bioethics and still is, I believe, at Case Law School, was chosen to lead a team of law professors, bioethicists, genetic engineers, molecular biologists, philosophers, over a 24-month period of time. And the other part of their press release that was astonishing was they said they were going to use actual human test subjects for designing the guidelines around human enhancement as the next step in human evolution. This funded by the U.S. Department of Health.
Few are aware of constant breakthroughs in technology which make the transhumanist vision a very real possibility for the near future. Neurochip interfaces, computer chips that connect directly to the brain, are being developed right now. The ultimate goal of a brain chip would be to increase intelligence thousands of times over, basically turning the human brain into a supercomputer. Nanotechnology is a pivotal area concerning transhumanists. It is the science of creating machines which are the size of molecules. Nanotech assembler machines will be able to build at an atomic level and replicate any chemically permitted form of matter. Such machines could create organic tissue for medical use. Using this type of technology could dramatically prolong lifespan. Some experts say that it will soon be possible to live forever.
You know, the Olympics ended just recently, and there was, discussions about several of the people in the Olympics that broke records, and there was questions about whether they were using gene doping. They're literally injecting genes into their system that gives them superior strength or stamina or whatever. So there again, if we can do this in the public, if you can go down to your local doctor and get injected with genetics that will somehow help you to perform, and you can't pick it up in your system because it's a natural process. That's a problem. If you were being injected with some kind of steroids, we can make you pee in a cup and we can pick that up and you can get in trouble. Gene doping is a different thing altogether. Well, the Go pills that the military has developed for our soldiers are essentially that. It'll help them stay awake for very long periods of time. Interestingly, they also have an interest in diminishing the human trait towards harming another human individual, to make them dull to the sense of killing, so that they literally become killing machines who can fight tirelessly for days on end. We're talking about the manufacturing of the Urukai. That's what we're talking about, creating literal killing machines that have been altered genetically for total battlefield domination. It's going to be extrapolated to an entirely different level. I mean, if you're a CEO, you own a corporation, and you're trying to remain competitive in the marketplace, and you're competing with CEOs out there who have brain-machine interfacing, they've been enhanced, they can plug themselves in the matrix, they can think, they can process data at 1 billion times faster than us naturals, you know what I mean? And you're trying to stay competitive. Who are you going to hire? That's going to be the future marketplace. Now, imagine the same thing with kids going to school. There are those who want to maintain their humanity for whatever reasons. It might not even be religious reasons. And now these kids go to school, they're always under enormous pressure anyway, especially in grade school, you know, to want to be accepted, to want to be part. And there's the cheerleading squad or whatever, and you want to be a part of it. Now imagine what it's going to mean for these future children who are trying to go into some kind of a public education system, and you have the enhanced and the non-enhanced, and there is going to be no way the non-enhanced can compete. So now they're bringing all this pressure home, and the parents who are trying to maintain their humanity are having to deal with this. It's a nightmarish, Gattaca-like future world that is going to develop.
Implantable brain chips are feasible. The nature of their future implementation has been discussed already in government documents. Although brain chips could enhance mental capacities dramatically, they could also be used as a means of outside control. Thoughts, sensory stimulation, and false memories could be instantly beamed into your mind and create a totally synthetic reality, which is perceived as real. Humans could be remotely controlled and manipulated. Denying that this would happen doesn't mute its possibility.
You know, DARPA had spent a great deal of money developing a particular kind of microchip some years ago that could be implanted intracranially so that then they would be able to control, let's say, a soldier or a person.
The Rambo chip, was this similar to that or a different?
Well, it may have been similar to the Rambo chip, and I can't for the life of me right now remember the name of it, but it doesn't matter. But what is important is that now the technology is leading to extracranial manipulation of brain waves. And DARPA is investing in this heavily to be able, essentially, to put a Wi-Fi bubble.
So there's no chip required.
No chip required.
No chip required.
Well, and how quickly is this technology advancing? There are games makers right now, that Xbox or whatever, that are putting out games where you just put a little rubber cap on your head.
Oh, perfect.
And it's reading your brain waves. These are in the stores now, and they're coming this Christmas again. And you can literally play a game by looking at the computer screen and thinking about it. So we have come so far in decoding the neural processes of the brain, the secret language of the brain, that now we can read the signals, and then we can transmit them remotely to a computer that then puts it in computer language, decodes it, puts it in articulate computer language, so that we're telling a game system what we do or do not want it to do just by thinking about it. Well, if games makers are that advanced, imagine how far advanced the DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, the U.S. Air Force, the U.S. Marines, and other advanced cultures around the world are right now in military technology, being able to remotely access and control, stimulate, and manipulate brainwave activity. So, I mean, the transhumanist looks at this and they say, this is so great. The future home. We'll all have our own little Wi-Fi bubble over the top of our house, and we can do everything. We can change channels, we can turn the lights off and on, we can set the alarm, we can say, hey, telephone, call mom, without even speaking. Furthermore, we're creating a synthetic form of telekinesis. The U.S. military is interested in super soldier technology and extended performance warfighter for total battlefield domination, and literally billions of dollars over a decade have flowed. And now you probably saw where the 2011 budget for DARPA includes several $1 million for what they call biodesign, which is the purpose of which is to create an immortal organism, and they even want a kill switch put in it in case this thing becomes a lethal force.
Futurist Ray Kurzweil predicts the year 2045 will be the technological tipping point.
He's an award-winning scientist and engineer, a millionaire several times over because of his inventions.
We will come to accept entities that are not biological as conscious. It's not going to be, okay, machines on the right side of the room, humans on the left. If you talk to a biological human, they will have lots of non-biological processes going on in their body and brain. Those computers will be out in the cloud, so the thinking of that, quote, person isn't even just in their body and brain, even in the non-biological portion. It's out on the cloud. So it's going to be all mixed up. There's not going to be a clear distinction between human and machine. The bottom line is we are one human-machine civilization. This technology has already expanded who we are, and it's going to go into high gear when we get to the steep part of the exponential.
I've talked about Ray Kurzweil forever on this program and on radio. In the 90s, I was talking about Ray Kurzweil. He's a brilliant man. He's the leading voice now in what's called transhumanist movement. Just like you didn't know anything about progressives, and neither did I don't know much about transhumanist or the transhumanist movement, but you need to. Transhumanists want to merge bodies and machines, and it will happen. It's already happening. Now, Ray only sees the positive aspects of it, and that's great. People will be able to live longer. We'll be able to eradicate disease. We can give them a new leg, a new arm. We can give people a new heart. Not a problem. But nobody's looking into the damage to the soul, the mental scars. The more people we keep alive on the battlefield, the more we have to pay attention to the long-term effect of the interior scarring. But that's really the root of the problem. Technology is moving forward at a breathtaking pace, and it's great. But man has come to a complete stop, and I believe it's probably fairer to say he is moving backwards. How do we handle the ethics of what life is? Because if we can make a clone of me with an artificial intelligence of me, if I get old, why not just print up another one of me and download what the real me has, upload it into the replicant me, and move on? Which one is real? They both claim to be life.
As soon as Obama became president, he used executive power to remove the restrictions that Bush had put in place so that federal dollars, our tax dollars, could actually start flowing into some of the research that's being hosted in some of these laboratories. Much of it, of course, under the pretense of stem cell sciences, but most of the public doesn't realize that that almost always includes, at least at the embryonic level, the creation of human-animal chimeras. And if you recall, about 24 months ago, the whole embryology discussions, that were going on in the UK, and these scientists were soliciting the government for public funds to fund their research into human-animal chimeras, and the government of the UK was taking so much pressure from parts of the public over the ethics of it, they opened it to kind of a public forum. So you had everybody, you had people that were for it, against it. The Vatican had 2 bishops that were there, and the 2 bishops said, if a woman participates in these experiments by providing eggs or ovum, and then later has a conflict of conscience and decided that she wanted to raise this half human, half animal as her offspring, she ought to have the right to do so. And what the bishops, I think, were illustrating was the tortured ethics, the questions that could arise in what we are now doing literally in thousands of laboratories around the world. Some of the Jewish Orthodox priests weighed in, and they said, well, if this is a part human, part cow, how much of it would have to be human for it to be protected under our laws, and at what point would the integration with the cow then allow us to burn it as a sacrifice? The Birkbeck Law School, which teaches crime scene analysis, crime scene investigators, recently put out a press release in which they said they're going to have to develop courses for crime scene investigator students in the future to learn how to analyze a crime scene that has been perpetrated by a human non-human. Because let's say that you have a serial rapist, but he's part wolf, or he has some of the genetics of a wolf. Everything about him might not fit our understanding of forensics.
What a freaky possibility.
Our understanding of profiling.
Yeah.
But it's serious enough that the government's actually funding committee hearings on this to prepare for the future. If you knew what's happening in Latin America, where the United States has contracts with laboratories where funding that is beyond congressional review, black budgets essentially, is going for super soldier technology, where these things have been being raised to full maturity. See, that was the debate recently out of the UK. These scientists were saying, we want to know now that we're able to create human-animal chimeras, fully up to 50% human-animal integration in the UK. Would the public be willing now to let us have additional funds to take it to the next level, to start raising these to full maturity? And interestingly, part of their argument was it's already being done anyway. Designer children are already being made. This week, a child was born in Britain that has 3 genetic parents.
Really?
This week, scientists are now discussing how they think they can make a third helix. Why only have 2 helixes when we can have a third one? And the third one can take control of the first 2. Those ones that God made aren't quite getting the job done. So we'll create one that man can take control of.
Much speculation is being done as to what relationships will exist between enhanced humans and AI machines. Some believe that machines will completely take over. Others believe that machine parts will be added to human bodies to create cyborgs. And still others believe that humanity will merge totally with digital technology by uploading individual consciousness to a virtual reality.
If technological singularity actually happens, and we're already using artificial intelligence, even Google uses artificial intelligence. It's just not yet strong artificial intelligence. But when that happens and a synthetic mind comes online, it will literally change things overnight. Overnight, within 1 week maybe. Everything we know will be being changed in terms of everything. Government policy, I think it will immediately lead to a police state. Because we will suddenly be faced with a threat that is so beyond our comprehension that we'll be paralyzed with what do we do with this thing now? And if people think that's an exaggeration, the highest think tank at the Pentagon, the Jasons, are concerned about this. There was an article just recently called Jasons Fear Brain-Modified Foes. And they were talking about transhumanism, artificial intelligence, saying that this is the next arms race. That what the Soviet Union and the United States at one time were doing in the buildup of nuclear weapons, the Jasons are saying it's not a matter of whether we think it's ethical to start altering ourselves and enhancing ourselves and building artificial intelligence. We don't have a choice, because if we don't develop it, if we don't get ahead of it, somebody else will. Our enemies will.
The problem of artificial intelligence is its potential to become infinitely more intelligent than us. By design, an AI brain would not be human. It doesn't make sense that its ultimate goals would parallel those of mankind. It seems impossible to keep AI under human control. Just because machines would be more intelligent than us does not mean that they will be superior to us. If we choose to create artificial intelligence, we may be opening the gate to a realm of imperceptible consequence. Of course, none of these technologies will arrive in their advanced forms immediately. They will be introduced over time so as not to completely overwhelm everyone. This in itself is a major problem, because as we acclimate to them, we could easily take them for granted. The dangers won't go away. In fact, they will only increase in relevance. This illustrates my biggest qualm with transhumanism in general. It focuses on future miracles and ignores present realities. The truth of the matter is that our world has major problems that can't be cured with external remedies. You cannot build a utopian society upon a broken foundation. If we choose to march forward without first looking inward, then we will bring about our own undoing.
We will not survive if technology continues to increase at this ever-expansive rate, while our morality continues to decrease, and we continue to head in the opposite direction of God and begin to enter the territory previously only occupied by God. We're in trouble.
What happens when the machines become smarter than us? You saw what happened in The Terminator. You saw what happened in Blade Runner. What are we going to do about it? Well, I'm going to give you a radical new solution, and that is merge with them. First, this is the human brain, the most complex object in our sector of the galaxy. 100 billion neurons that can be scanned by MRI, neuron for neuron. This means we can digitize all the information we accumulate during our lives and upload it into a giant mother computer, a vast database of all human knowledge. A resource we could share by downloading programs we want to give us instant knowledge. So when the singularity arrives, we will be in control. By merging with machines, we will enter a new age of superhuman existence. That in the post-human era, we become Homo superior. We become a new species We're talking about humanity becoming like the gods. What do you think? And how many want to sign up?
It's a fantastic idea. I think what we need to do in order to get to that place is think about technology as a way of making ourselves better, as a way of coming to the fullness of human potential and doing everything we can to improve ourselves.
The idea of, us being able to evolve past normal human standards is brilliant.
I got a whole privacy issue thing going on here, and there's some parts of my mind that I just don't think the whole of humanity is really ready to hear.
That they will either become God or die trying, destroying the Earth and solar system in the process. So that's where we stand. And once you understand this, you know what? You're not so much into football anymore.
Uploading your mind to a computer brings an alternate way of achieving immortality, but it presents limitless possibilities for malevolent use. Leaving your material body behind to become an electronic data stream could theoretically bring limitless digital experiences. The problem here is perception. Yes, you could feel powerful, but the reality would be that your entire existence is contained within a tiny computer. Computers are programmed. Whoever programmed the computer would have complete power over your life. If they wanted to, they could manipulate and torture you in ways we can't even conceive of. It would be beyond your control to stop them, because you would not be able to return to the material world. You would be trapped. The irony of this situation is that by leaving your body in pursuit of a pseudo-spiritual existence, you give the power of godhood over to those people whom you leave behind in the physical world. With benefits such as longer life, increased intelligence, and better communication, it's easy to see the appeal of transhumanism. But along with these benefits come the potential dangerous applications of converging technologies, dangers which are either overlooked or completely ignored by the transhuman fundamentalist community. The desire to lead a long, happy, healthy life is undeniably a good thing. However, when we achieve the ability to extend human life indefinitely, certain issues will arise. Already we've been inundated with claims that the Earth is overpopulated. The correlation between environmental degradation and rising population numbers is not new. China phased in its one-child policy gradually, and it makes sense that similar policies would be phased in globally as life extension therapies become widely used. In a world where humans live forever, who gets the final say on reproduction? Government would manage human life. The right to life could become a privilege and be based on each person's degree of usefulness to society. This scenario is unavoidable if radical life extension was widely employed. This brings up deep philosophical issues which cannot be ignored.
Well, you know what? And they say, oh, if the Amish don't want to do it, it won't matter. They'll be assimilated one way or the other. So in the final equation, they'll let you live in little reservations if you don't want to be part of this. But in the final equation, they say that they're just going to make you be assimilated. It's the Borg. Well, let me explain something. It isn't happening. I've seen what you people make, and it's ugly.
Some people say we shouldn't be tinkering with God's plan. But she said if we find a cure for cancer through a transgenic animal, nobody's going to be saying you shouldn't be doing that. I wanted to email Mrs. Vandelevore and suggest that she watch the movie I Am Legend with Will Smith, because it actually starts out with that very premise. You have a geneticist on a television show saying we have found the cure for cancer. And the cure for cancer turns out that they blended human and animal DNA, because some animals are more resilient to cancer, and then from that derived a vaccine. And they vaccinated all the world, and everybody celebrates because now we don't have cancer. And then the scene changes, and it's a year or 2 years or whatever down the road, and most of all life on Earth has been wiped out. Why? The unintended consequence of blending humans and animal DNA for a vaccine led to the creation of a human form of rabies, which then would have never been natural to our system, wipes out most of mankind. And that's based on a real scientific possibility.
It definitely looks like a very coordinated, organized intelligence, a very dark intelligence that wants to seize control over the species. And I know there's a lot of theories out there, but there are more people opening up to this idea that fundamentally there's something very, very wrong, and we're in the crosshairs of something.
Yeah, and this is where it begins to borderline, you know, the spiritual, the metaphysical, the supernatural. And interestingly, even among transhumanists, there is the growing belief that this technology could literally lead to the opening of a doorway through which we may make contact with an intelligence that we most certainly are not prepared to deal with. And James Hughes is a Buddhist. There is now a Christian Transhumanist Association. There is a Muslim Transhumanist Association. There's a Mormon Transhumanist Association. And it's yeah, and it's because they too believe that this technology isn't just going to alter us, you know, our biology, but it may even change the definition of soul.
The transhumanist, they're going to fix all the problems. They've got the implantable tech. It'll fix all these crises that DARPA and the globalists created. And that you should just give in to having your humanity ended and merge with machines they make. They make. Remember that. With their back doors. You need to understand that the people we're dealing with are highly intelligent. On average, they have about 180 IQs. And either we resist this and speak out against this, or they're going to carry out the next phases of their plan. The only way they'll talk to us is if we cut through all the garbage, really address them, confront them everywhere, and say, we're alive, we're sentient, we're human, we're not unconscious, we know what you're doing, and here's the problems with it, and we don't like it, and we're going to make sure when you try to carry this plan out that we have already exposed it so you don't get away with it.